Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Pigskin. I'm your host, Scott Morgan, Roth, the Motor City Madmouth. Great crew lined up today. We're going to be talking about Jim Harbaugh. We're going to be talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to talk about the Miami Dolphins and Aaron Donald. With that said, let me introduce the crew. We have Travis Holmes. Welcome back, Travis.
Thank you for having me as always, sir.
You're very welcome. Jeremy Ballrick, glad to have you back.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. All right, Bo, what do you know?
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you too. And last but not least, my star running back player, Mel Farr Jr.
Hey guys, how's it going?
We're doing great. All right, let's get right to it. Jim Harbaugh reiterates belief that J.J. McCarthy is the NFL draft's best quarterback. All right, we'll start with the player first. Mel, do you agree with that?
You said what now?
Jim Harbaugh reiterates belief that J.J. McCarthy is the NFL draft's best quarterback. Mel, do you believe that?
No. I mean, I haven't seen anything to prove that. He wasn't really asked to do a whole bunch at Michigan. I think he protected him. They're a very sound football team, as far as running the ball. But then again, he spent a lot of time with him. Obviously, he spent 3 years with him. He knows him a lot better than any of us could possibly know him and what he's capable of doing and what he's not capable of doing. He has, he looks good getting off the bus. Let's put it like that. He has all the tools. He looks like he can play the position, but there's a lot more to it than just looks. It would be great, if he goes out there and excels in the NFL. I think a lot of teams have him rated pretty highly, but from what I've seen on film, I don't see that he's the best quarterback in the draft.
Okay, Joshua Bernstein, Wild Panthers game. I'm sure we'll get a score shortly. Glad to have you in the chat room. All right, Jeremy, what do you think about J.J. McCarthy?
I think if J.J. McCarthy goes to a team where he has to start the first year, he's going to fail.
Do you?
I think he needs to sit a year. I think he needs to learn the NFL game because right now, I don't see that decision-making that is good for an NFL quarterback. For as many wow throws as J.J. McCarthy had this season, he had those WTF throws.
Okay. All right. Joshua Bernstein, living in South Florida, gives us a score 2-1. The Florida Panthers are leading the Boston Bruins. He says the second period has been a problem. Okay. For those Panther fans tuning in, there you go. All right. With that said, we'll turn it over to Travis Holmes.
I mean, I think we all kind of know what time of year it is, man. It is peak lying season. That is where we are. That is what's going on right now. I'm not going to fully say that Jim Harbaugh is lying. I'm saying he's doing what he's supposed to do and saying what he's supposed to say to not only benefit his guy, but also benefit his current team.
Right.
Like it obviously helps his current squad to get all the quarterbacks pushed up, ahead of where his team is drafting, so that maybe he can get one of these top receivers on his team. So of course, there's no reason for him not to say exactly what he's saying, whether it's self-preservation or it's just peak lying season. Now we're good.
Yeah, NASCAR, they call it silly season. All right, Joshua Bernstein, the king of all nickname, calls you Travis Bird Holmes. All right. I don't know where he gets it, but whatever. It's up there. Daniel Berry, Sports Highlights. Well, all right, okay. I guess my oohs don't go that far, but nevertheless. With that said, we got both on the screen, so why don't you give us your take on JJ?
Yeah, I mean, there's gamesmanship here because you want to improve what you're drafting, just like Travis said. And, of course, you want to hype up your guy that you've been coaching for the last few years. But there's zero chance he's the best quarterback in this draft. Even if he is talented enough to be, he didn't get asked to do enough for him to have the reps that these other guys do. So, yeah, I don't think he's going to be the best quarterback coming out in this draft. But if you're the coach, yeah, I mean, you're going to say stuff like that.
Well, you know what? He may not be the best quarterback in the draft, but I'm going to tell you one thing. I definitely don't think Caleb Williams is either. So I'll leave it at that. By the time, if he does get drafted by the Bears, he's getting, what do they call that in wildlife talk? He's going to get mauled if he's playing for the Bears. So I have no confidence in Caleb Williams. He'll his play regress. But, J.J. McCarthy is a gritty player, and he does have a national championship under his belt. So I'll give him at least that much. At least he has a championship and a big one in his pocket. So All right, Candy, go ahead. All right, go ahead, Bo. You have something to add to it?
Nope.
All right, we'll have Candy take us to a station break. Go ahead, Candy.
So, if you haven't bought this book yet, I don't know why. Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. The author is none other than your host tonight for Inside the Pigskin, Scott Morganroth. It is available on Amazon, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble. There is a red subscribe button, and if you see it, it should be right now by Travis. If you see that button, that means you have not subscribed to us yet. Why not? Please do so. Share us, like us. Support all of our panelists. Most of them have their own YouTube channels that they stream to as well. If you have show ideas, email us, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you like to listen to the audio version, it's available wherever you get your podcast. And more importantly, we have a website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where you can get any of Scott's writings. Jeremy's written for us. We have other writers. We have transcripts from the Lions, the Jaguars, the Dolphins, and many colleges as well. Okay, Scott, back to you.
All right, thanks, Candy. Well done. And also, we also have columns come in from Sideline Sports as well from time to time. All right, second topic. Would Odell Beckham Jr. be a good fit for the Miami Dolphins? He visited on Thursday. The Dolphins made him an offer, but the talks are still ongoing. All right, you know what, Travis? I'll lead off with you.
Thought that was a curious one. I mean, he would obviously help the team. Don't get me wrong, because he is a solid, NFL veteran. He's great at his route running, and as long as he can stay healthy, he'll be a great addition to the team. All facts, all true. But you won't get the reps that he's obviously used to getting, being on a team with Tyreek Hill and Jayden Waddle. Like, that's not going to happen. But if he's comfortable with that role, being that third receiver, maybe playing the slot, then so be it. But I guess it'd be a solid addition overall. But he just obviously wouldn't getting the burn that he was acclimated to getting in Baltimore.
Okay, Mel, what do you think?
I mean, you can never have enough talented players. Odell is going to be 31 this year, I believe. I think the biggest issue with him is money. How much money he wants. He got $15 million last year. I don't think he necessarily earned that $15 million, but he was in a difficult situation when you have a Lamar Jackson who is really not asked to throw the ball that much. Their game is predicated on being physical and running the football, controlling the line of scrimmage. That team being the Baltimore Ravens. Miami does like to throw it around a lot. And I don't think you can have enough premier weapons. And I think he would obviously probably take a lot of pressure off Tyreek. I do believe he still has a lot left in the tank. He wasn't utilized that much last year. I mean, Odell Beckham is one of those guys who he's a talented wide receiver. Don't get me wrong. But he made his name off of one catch, I believe it was on Monday Night Football, and that's kind of how he made his name. Then he kind of had the little antics on the sidelines with the kicking net, slamming the kicking net, then proposing to the kicking net. He was more of a character with the Giants, more of a distraction. Initially, went to Cleveland, seemed like he started focusing on football, and just couldn't stay healthy there. Went to the Rams, played very well for them. I think had he not gotten hurt in that Super Bowl, I think the Rams would have won that game because or did they win that game?
They did win it.
They did win it, but I think he would have been the MVP of that game because he was having an outstanding game that particular game. And unfortunately, he just got hurt going out there running the route. So, I think it would be a great pickup for him because you can never have enough weapons.
Okay, we'll turn it over to Jeremy.
Who are we talking about again?
Odell going to Miami.
Odell Beckham Jr. Where'd he go? Miami?
Not yet.
They're in talks. He hasn't actually gone yet.
They're in talks. If he makes it off the tarmac without being hurt, it's worth the contract.
Okay. Well, no, that's fair. Hey, what you're saying is very fair, though. It's true. The guy's been injury prone, Jeremy, like you said, and if you can keep him on the field, you're fine. So continue your thought. And by the way, let's go to the chat room too.
Okay, bring it up.
All right, let's go ahead. Joshua Bernstein said nothing to lose. I guess I could go along with that.
What's
Blake.
going on?
Yeah. Okay. Well, Blake's back in. All right. Ryan Hoffman is going to kill it in Special Olympics. All right. Keep me posted. So, Josh, you're going to be our Special Olympics correspondent. Okay. Keep going.
Panthers game is wild.
Okay.
Joshua Burstein says flag football champ.
Okay.
Best game of the year so far. And Blake Lazinski says, oh, yeah.
Okay.
And Joshua Burstein says, question for Mel. Who is your favorite Special Olympics athlete?
Yeah, that's a great question. I just don't follow the sport enough to be able to give you a qualified answer on that question. But I mean, it is a great question. I mean, that's a tremendous honor to be able to represent your country, and it's also something great for those athletes. But I just don't watch it enough. I don't have the bandwidth to watch it.
I have an answer, but it's kind of funny. Mine is Johnny Knoxville in that movie.
That's funny. You got me to laugh there. Pumpkin Jay is a funny guy. Ditto. Absolutely. All right. Let's continue on. So
I am drinking Mountain Dew from my own custom Lion tumbler.
There you go. And I drink the Mountain Dew stuff. Look at this guy. Hey, listen, we got some characters in the chat room. Nothing wrong with that.
As far as OBJ, he hasn't really been a 1,000-yard receiver ever since he got hurt the first time. He's helped teams. He's been the move the chain guy. He's kind of turned into Julio Jones 2.0. He'll get you a first down. He'll get you yards, but he does not get to the end zone as much. He's not that guy anymore. He can make a contested catch or two, but if he doesn't stay healthy, he's not helping your team.
Yeah, he's good for a half a dozen plays a game at best.
But that's actually curious though, because I mean, honestly, I forgot about the late season injury to Tyreek. And when that happened, they had the game against the Titans. They had the playoffs when he was already hampered and everything else. I mean, that's probably one of the main reasons we have the hip drop tackle.
And Waddle was hurt too.
Yeah, ban even happening. So I'm like, that's actually a fair, like, OBJ can take over a game. I'm not going to say he can't. We've seen that even last year with the Ravens. Like he's good for that one game. So even if it's just something as like it's just a hedge on whether it's Tyreek or whether it's Waddle, from that point of view is like to Mel's earlier point, you can't have too many good players, but also you can't have too much depth.
I agree. Yeah, the one thing I'll say about Odell Beckham Jr., no matter what happens in his career, he has a Super Bowl win and a ring to show for it, thanks to Matthew Stafford. And he was a good late season addition for him too, without a doubt. So, I guess the question is how much does he feel that he's worth, and are the Dolphins willing to pay that price, knowing full well that they had to cut a lot of salary is what they've had to do just to try to get within salary cap respectability. Then again, all the teams have really been in that situation going into free agency for sure. So, it's just one of those type of situations where how much are they willing to pay for a third receiver? And of course, I don't have any doubt that Tua Tagovailoa will get him the football. Any good quarterback should know that if you have a good quarterback and you can find a guy open, you will find him. The Dolphins receiving corps is good. We have Jalen Waddle, you got Tyreek Hill, and the list goes on and on. So I don't know. If it happens, it'll be an interesting fit for sure. All right, onward.
For me on that, let me chime in on it. So obviously he can add something to your team, but it's a curious signing because they have a lot of questions on defense.
Right.
So I don't know if adding a bunch of stuff to offense is really all that helpful when your defense is currently set up to stop nobody. So I would be a little more focused on that side of the ball than adding some extra depth, especially for a splash player, not somebody that is a workhorse typically, and definitely has some injury issues. So add some nice depth to him, sure. But at the end of the day, I would probably be focused on that defense.
Excellent point, Bo. I really like that. Because, again, the Miami Dolphins can put points on the board. The question is, can they stop anybody? And they lost that one player to, I'm drawing a blank. One of their best defensive players is
Christian Wilkins.
That's it. Thanks, Jeremy. You lose him, that's a big loss in that defense, and now they're talking about offense. All right, Blake Lozinski has a question for you, Bo.
Yeah.
So-
How do I think Taylor Swift is helping the NFL? Well, I mean, they are in brand growth all the time, right? That's why they're going to Brazil this year. That's why they do all these overseas things. So now they are getting in front of a ton of people that were not previously football fans, probably still aren't, but they're watching. And that's what the NFL cares about. So it is a money-driven league, despite the fact that it is a entertainment nonprofit. Profit is key for them. And the more eyes on the product, the more money they make. So they were figuring about how much she added this last year just being around the sport was $338 million was an estimated bump because she was involved. So I don't know a single company that wouldn't take a $338 million bump.
I was just going to say the viewership for women viewers between the ages of 14 and 35 was up 42% last season.
And jersey sales went through the roof.
You know, I like a crew. I like a crew that digs up all these facts. Makes my job a lot easier. Everybody
Most
has their.
already up there.
You know, I only bring on the best.
Well, it's also for a corporation, and the NFL is obviously that has problems historically just keeping people happy. Like, frankly, there's always a boycott of this, there's a boycott of that, there's an issue with this, there's an issue with that, there's a lawsuit that's pending, whatever it may be. So if you have an opportunity to get some favorable media coverage for the majority of a season by having someone like Taylor Swift, represent your brand, that is awesome. That is probably a good thing. And just looking at the Morning Consult, they had a January article that talked about the fact that Gen Z and millennial women favor the NFL. That went up 11% this past season. Like, people felt better about the NFL, even though they do employ a lot of problematic guys. Like, we can say it that way. That's just objective truth.
It's not a lot. There's a few. It's not a lot. It's a few.
Notable. High profile. Is that better? I'm not saying it's necessarily the majority of the guys, but when it's noticeable, it's front page news. That's all.
I mean, that's with anything. I mean, you watch the news, 98% of it is bad, but that doesn't mean 98% of the folks out there are bad people.
Also fair.
No, absolutely.
Hey, Blake, let me give you this, okay? If you're looking to make us all laugh, you're doing a really good job of it, because you know what? When it comes to Taylor Swift, I don't think any of us can keep a straight face on this one.
You said I can tell all you guys are Swifties. I can tell you I'm not. I said all season. The only thing flatter than Taylor Swift was Travis Kelce's play through the first 10 games.
Man.
Wow. Shake it off.
Just a closet hater over there.
I'll tell you,
it's him. He's the problem.
we definitely have an entertaining chat room. I can tell you, when these guys come on, the Lozinskis, the Bernsteins, and everybody else in there, that this is going to be a fun show. I feel it. I talk to these guys every day on FaceTime. I've had more FaceTime calls in the last 2 weeks than I've had in the last several years, except when my mom was alive, and I used to do those with her before she passed away. Guys, keep it up. I enjoy your FaceTime calls. They're a blast. All right, with that said, we'll blast over to the next topic, and that being this. Everybody talk about Beckham. Everybody's had their piece on this. Let's make sure. Say aye. Okay. Good stuff. All right. Philadelphia Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni is thrilled about what running back Saquan Barkley can bring to his team. Mel Farr Jr., you think he should be?
Yeah, I mean, they're a run-oriented team, and Saquon's one of the best in the business at doing what he does. Definitely an upgrade from DeAndre Swift, and DeAndre Swift was very good, and he did very well in that offense. So, it can help take some pressure off of Jalen, obviously. It's going to help take some pressure off of A.J. Brown and Goddard, open up the offense a little bit more. Saquon is a guy that can catch you 80 rocks out of the backfield. He can tote it a couple hundred times a game. A couple hundred times a season. So, that's somebody that you can control. When you get ahead, then you can keep the leads. You can control the leads. You can lean on folks. You can wear them out. And, when it comes later on in the season, when you're talking about November, December, early January, that's huge to be able to play that type of football, especially as the weather, is not so favorable in that part of the country. So, yeah, I mean, I look for big things from Saquon, because it's just not going to be on him. There's other people you have to worry about. when he was with the Giants, they didn't have to necessarily. The whole thing was stop Saquon, make Daniel Jones beat you. Well, now if you just say stop Saquon, you're saying, hey, make Jalen Hurts beat me. He's proven that he can do that.
You know, it's funny on social media. This is so funny. By the way, Joshua says, Mel, you need some furniture in that penthouse. Okay.
There's furniture. There's furniture. There's furniture.
There you go. Look at that stuff. Look at that. I'll tell you, these guys don't miss a beat. So anyways, let me just say this. I remember when I saw something on social media from Saquon Barkley's daughter who says, Daddy, now we can win. It was funny, meaning that the Giants didn't do much of it. All right. So with that said, Jeremy, what do you think about Mr. Barkley? No relation to Charles.
I think it'd be a major upgrade to DeAndre Swift, because while DeAndre Swift, his overall season stats look great, he was only good for 5 touchdowns. He was only great in 3 games, just like he was only great in 3 or 4 games for Detroit, which is why he had big yards. He'd have 3 games where he'd have over $150 and 15 touches, and then he'd disappear after a quarter or a half the next game.
Well, he had probably stayed healthy in Detroit too.
And I don't think they're going to be as successful this year because the tush push will go away. They don't have a center that can get as low as Jason Kelce did to pull that off.
Yeah, you know what, though? I will say this much, and to the Lions' credit, okay, David Montgomery was an unbelievable upgrade over DeAndre Swift. So apparently Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell knew DeAndre, you want to go? That's okay. We got no issue with that, okay? Reality is we saw what David Montgomery did. He loves playing there, and he's done a remarkable job. So, all right, Travis, go ahead.
This is going to be a curious one. It's rough because Swift wasn't bad. Like, I guess we kind of just mentioned, he was volatile for sure. Whereas Saquon is probably the first 3 down back they've had since what? I don't even know.
LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah, maybe. Like he's a true 3 down all around back, and that can. That obviously helps their offense. That takes a lot of the pressure, not just off of Jalen Hurts, but off of Sirianni himself. They can stop being so predictable, because that's the biggest issue with the team last year was not just Jalen Hurts, but also how they ran the offense. The fact that they had to have their entire running game be from the shotgun, so everything ended up being outside zone because it's so difficult to have that cutback if you're running a shotgun play to the left. Like if you're trying to run it to the left, that cutback lane is to the back side of that running back, like to the back of his head. That's a rough play, and it's probably one of the least explosive plays for a running back in the NFL. So maybe they'll actually go under center a little more. That's my hope. Now that they already have the transition with the new center, so I'm happy for Saquon. I'm happy for the team. I hope that invites some change and invites some some perspective maybe this offseason, so they can change a few things and get this offense running right.
By the way, Ken Bulrick, thank you very much. I appreciate the compliments on the hat. So,
that's
all right,
smoking bad, everybody.
There you go. Okay. You had to come from somewhere. That's all right. Your dad never realized that he ended up seeing his son turn into a broadcaster. Good stuff. All right. So who's left?
Jeremy, what are your thoughts on Jason Kelce retiring? I think it was the right move for him. I think he was banking on that Travis and Taylor will stay together because they gained 350,000 viewers on their podcast, where their podcast will actually make him more money than football would at the end of his career. And I think that's what he's banking on.
Okay, go ahead, Bo.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously this is an upgrade for him as long as Saquon can stay healthy. But the good thing is for Saquon is he's not going to be fighting off tackles behind the line of scrimmage now. They have a good offensive line. So his initial contact isn't going to be by, 6'5" Samoan guys. It's going to be by linebackers that don't outweigh him by a lot. And I actually disagree with Jeremy here. Cam Jurgens is going to be a good center. I mean, he was the heir apparent to Kelce anyway. And he was involved in those tush-push plays to begin with. He was playing guard. So, I mean, it's not like he's unfamiliar with how to run those plays. They're still going to have one of the better offensive lines in the league. And if you're a running back, you got to like that, especially for a team that does run the ball a lot. So I like what this can be for him. Obviously, it comes down to whether or not Saquon can stay healthy. Historically, that hasn't been the case, but this is definitely his best offensive line.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to close out the topic is this. Face it, okay, Saquon Barkley has a much better supporting cast with the Philadelphia Eagles. His coach, Nick Sirianni, is a heck of a coach, too. The Giants haven't been able to figure it out for a while, and now their owner says he's not opposed to the team taking a quarterback. So when you compare and contrast the two organizations, that the Giants are second-guessing the quarterback position yet again, Saquon got out of there to a division rival, and now he has a supporting cast. I could see Saquon Barkley having a pretty good year, providing he stays healthy. The biggest issue we had with DeAndre Swift, really, for the most part, he never stayed healthy, and he never played more than 3 to 5 good games. And that's always been his Achilles heel anyway. So we'll see. I like what they're doing in Philadelphia. All right, now we're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know if I call them America's team. I think they came back in the 70s, and somehow, some way, it stayed that way. But anyways, Cowboys owner Jerry Jones is confident in Cowboys despite free agent exits. We've got Dak. Nelly. I had to get my own Nelly momentum for the night. The team has lost Tyron Smith, Tyler Biadasz, Tony Pollard, Jonathan Hankins, and Neville Gallimore. Prescott carries a $55.4 million cap hit in 2024, which takes up 21.4% of the Cowboys cap. Bear in mind, the club has not made it past the divisional round since 1995 campaign, and the team has finished 12-5 the last 3 seasons. But I should also point out that, okay, what we can tell you is this, okay? When you look at Dak Prescott, he's going to be playing out his year, is what he's going to do, and then we'll see what he's worth on the open market. With that said, I'll turn over to Mel.
You want to know about Dak Prescott? I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
That's an awesome way to phrase it.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways.
I mean, the Cowboys are going to, obviously they're in a conundrum. He has a large cap number that they have to deal with, and they're married to him, and that's their guy. They're going to go as far as Dak will take him. I don't see what they've done in the offseason to help him in a whole lot. They lost their running back, which is not really a big deal in the sense where everybody thinks that you can just get one off the corner. But it would take a lot of pressure off of him. Although statistically he had a great year, but when it comes down to the nitty gritty, there's a couple things you got to be able to do. You got to be able to run the football. You got to be able to stop the run. You got to be able to control the line of scrimmage. And if you're not able to do that, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to win football games late. You can maybe win some football games early with all that offense, but when it comes down to the nitty gritty, you have to be able to run the football. When it comes, when you get to late December, November, December, early January, you need to be able to run the football. And Dak has proven that he is not capable of taking the Cowboys far in the postseason. They got there this year, and then they got embarrassed, if I'm not mistaken, in the playoff game. I can't remember, but I believe they got embarrassed in the playoff game that they participated in. So it's going to be an interesting year to see what kind of help they're going to get Dak to help him get over that hump, because it's not just Dak. And I've talked about it before. The Cowboys is one of those teams. They got a lot of players. They got a lot of great players on that team, but they lack leadership. They don't have a true leader. The owner is, he kind of marches to his own drum, and he does what he wants to do. The only owner that I know that I believe has his own little show, and then, you got players, all of them have different podcasts and stuff going on. There's a lot of individuals there, but they don't have a team concept. It's a lot of me first versus us first. So that's the biggest problem that I really see with the Cowboys. If they could embrace a us first, a team first concept, I think they'd be a lot more successful. But the way they're currently constructed, and like I said, it starts at the top. I don't see them doing much. I don't see much changing.
Okay, let's go to the chat room. There's a lot up there. Joshua Bernstein said Blake's new team. Okay, all right, let's keep it going from where we're at. We got Blake's new team. All right, go ahead. You read them, Jeremy.
All right, I think the Carolina Panthers should move to Dothan, Alabama. Joshua Burstein asked Travis specifically, what did he think about Dothan, Alabama getting an NFL team?
I mean, hey, flag football is a sport now, man. And it's going to be an Olympic sport. So, hey, it legitimately will be an Olympic sport. So let's take it serious. America, U.S. #1, cool. Breed them, get them out. Let's go.
There you go. All right, keep it rolling in the chat room. Let's keep going.
Anyone going to the draft this year? We're praying we do.
That is the goal.
I'm going to go to watch it no matter what. But, yeah, I'm going.
I'm not going to the draft, but I will be there the day before because we have a function going on for our foundation. We have a large event going on the day before the draft on the 24th of April. It's 4/24/24. We're taking advantage of my dad's number, and so we have a large event going on at One Mic Stand in Detroit on April 24th at 7 p.m. at One Mic Stand, and would like to see a whole lot of folks out there to support the foundation. The foundation is the Mel Farr Superstar Foundation, and it supports the various camps that we have going on here in Georgia, and also up there. We have the Georgia Showcase here, and we have the Michigan Showcase up in Michigan. Gives youth an opportunity. Those guys, those individuals, those student athletes who did not receive a Division I scholarship, we give them an opportunity to showcase their talents, their skills, and their abilities in front of Division II, Division III, and NAIA schools, so they can earn grant and aids and scholarships right on the spot. So, and also we're looking to start a curriculum. The Lewis School of Business up there in Detroit, an entrepreneurship curriculum with my dad's name. So that's the purpose of the foundation, is just to continue his legacy.
Oh, hopefully we'll have a chance to get together at that event, Mel. I'm trying to get my schedule sorted out. I have a lot of things going up when I get up there. I got business meetings with potential magazines, as well as radio appearance I have to make promoting the book, but I'm confident we can get in there. So, all right, let's continue with the chat room. Speaking of Dallas, I'm a Hawks fan. Seahawks stole Hankins. Would like to know your thoughts, Paul.
I mean, yeah, they're going to have to rebuild the whole defense, right? I mean, at this point, they had let everybody go. It was a really expensive defense that wildly underperformed. And despite the fact that there was some tradition with some of the guys that were there, it's going to be complete turnover. So, I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, you're going to see all those guys go.
Okay, let's go to Ken Bulrick. I like this comment. Jerry Jones has gotten his wish. Go ahead, Jeremy. Read the rest of it.
He said if the Cowboys could win the Super Bowl in '95, he wouldn't care if the Cowboys never won another one. Karma is a bitch.
There you go. Okay. All right. Now, I like this comment because it's true. Dak, go ahead, Jeremy.
Dak is just another Romo. Dallas is wasting money.
There you go. Boy, he nailed that one, Robert.
Yeah, and Joshua Burstein, he already answered it. But yes, what is that foundation again?
It's the Mel Farr Superstar Foundation.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Very good. So there you go.
And he says, that is awesome, and keep it up, Mel.
All right.
Chad Schrader says, what's up, Bo?
What's happening, Chad?
There you go. We're getting it everywhere. Mel Farr was a legend, and Mel Farr Jr. is a legend in our eyes.
Mel Farr Superstar. He's one of the few people to actually be a superstar on the field and a superstar as a backup singer for Marvin Gaye.
That was funny. All right. Well, all right. Now that all right, who's talked about this? I know we're moving around a little bit. So who hasn't talked about?
So I hadn't touched on the Dak thing yet. So
all right, go ahead.
It's interesting that they haven't moved forward with a deal just because of the dead cap money that they will owe him if they allow him to do, test free agency. Because basically they could be paying him $40 million to not be there. Now, obviously there's a precedent around the league that apparently that's not a problem anymore. You got the Broncos doing it to the tune of $85 million to just please go play anywhere else. So, I mean, I guess $40 million doesn't matter anymore, but it seems like it hurts the cap. So you would think that they would want to get something done. It is laughable that they were saying, oh yeah, we're Dak's our guy, but we're not going to give him a deal. So, I mean, how much of your guy is he, right? So nothing they've done indicates that they're all in for this season, though, because their salary cap was absolutely brutal coming into this year. So all they're doing is losing talent. And so we'll see what happens. But I don't imagine they're going to be as good as they were last year.
All right, Mel, you talked about the Cowboys. So with that said, Bo, do you want to add to what we just talked about here, or do you feel that you've made your point?
No. That's
Well, let me
Okay.
touch this one before we move on.
Go ahead. Well, we have a couple of people, and then I'll say something. Go ahead.
I got you. At the end of the day, while we may give Dak all the heat, let's be clear. They lost giving up 48 points. They lost in the playoffs by scoring more than 30 points in an NFL game. That's obviously not on the offense. Can we just be real about that? Like, they are, for a reason, rebuilding that defense with a new defensive coordinator. For that all happened for a reason, and it has nothing to do with Dak and the offense. So, like, while Dak may have his opportunities, I wanted to be clear in saying, all right, yeah, they did build a solid enough team, or at least on offense, to win. They were DVOA. They were one spot below the Kansas City Chiefs. They were still a top 10 offense as far as that piece was concerned. So at the end of the day, yeah, the defense stunk and it had a lot of high-priced guys that just didn't get the job done. They lost a few rotational guys. They're going to rebuild through the draft and try to figure it out. But it's an all-in season anyways. They're in the last year of the contract for the coach. It sounds like they're pretty much going to be in the last year of the contract for the quarterback. And if it doesn't work, they're going to blow it up and just eat that money and restart it all next year. I can't blame them. I mean, I don't want to kind of keep kicking that can down the road or giving money if they don't deserve it. So I get it.
Mel, is there something you wanted to add?
No.
Okay. Who else? Jeremy, you have something? Go ahead.
If we're talking about Dak Prescott, yes, he is Tony Romo, but with bigger money. He's got about the same amount of wins that Tony Romo had in the postseason. So that being said, if he makes it there, will they win the Super Bowl? I doubt it.
Right.
Because he has one game every playoff where he makes a bonehead mistake.
Okay. Well, one thing I'm going to mention that nobody's mentioned here, Treylance. Ever heard of him? Okay. Just like Jordan Love. Ever heard of him? Some reason or another, I think this has been Jerry's MO when he brought Treylance over. At some point or another, Dak Prescott outpriced himself. That Treylance has been sitting with a clipboard all this time. Okay. And the thing I believe in my mind that Dak Prescott has had more than enough time and you paid him more than enough money, okay, to go a little further in the playoffs. You're going to see Treylance soon enough at the rate we're going. I just have a real feeling about it. I really do. I had the same feeling about this. And for those of you that watched last week's edition of the Sports Exchange, okay, as I had when Dusty May was going to take the Michigan Wolverines job. And how did that work out? Okay, he took the Wolverine job. So I guess my point is this. Treylance will be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys within the next year or two if this thing continues to head in that particular direction. Anybody else want to add something before we move on?
I just figured I'll touch the comment by Blake there where it says Dak will have a ring this time next year. Shout out to the Shane Company for getting him something nice because it's not going to be a Super Bowl ring.
He went to Jared.
To Jared. There we go.
But anyways, somebody said that Snead got a 4-year, $55 million contract. No, it's a 4-year, $76.4 million deal with $55 million guaranteed and a $20 million signing bonus, which is why the only team that could afford to trade for him was the one who did.
Right. Okay. Very good. Like it. All right. Final topic of the night. Aaron Donald explained his retirement that he's burnt out. Okay. Played 10 seasons in the league, 10-time Pro Bowler, won a Super Bowl, and wants to leave the game as healthy as he can. Well, all I'll say is I can't blame him. He's won everything. He doesn't want to deal with head injuries down the road. We'll say how many head injuries he's already had anyways. But, let's face it, nowadays, if you can last 10 years in the NFL the way it's played these days at 32 and be able to go out there and do what he's done, more power to Aaron. So I have no problem with him retiring earlier. When you've done it all, now you just need to protect yourself and be good to your loved ones and your family. So with that said, I've said my piece on Aaron Donald. Okay, I'll turn it over to Jeremy.
Aaron Donald was ready to retire after the Super Bowl, but the Rams kept throwing money until they got to a dollar amount he wanted to play again. He played 2 years of it, says, I'm done. Why wait till he can't walk out of the building when he can walk out, hold his head high, go home and enjoy it?
Okay, I want to go to a comment with Robert Wardell. Lance is a bust at this point for feeling considered generational. You know what, Robert, to some extent, I think you're right a little bit, but I do believe that it's not entirely his fault. And the reason why is he fell into a bad situation with San Francisco is what he did. So I'm not ready to give him a complete bust tag. I know where you're coming from. I can't totally disagree with you there, Robert. Time will tell. I've seen quarterbacks that have been drafted higher that ultimately turned out to be good quarterbacks. It just depends on the situation that you're in. But Robert, and I appreciate you bringing that out. Okay. With that said, anybody else want to comment about Lance being a bust? Go ahead, Jeremy.
You said Trey Lance. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Trey Lance was actually drafted by a GM that wanted him and a coach who didn't. It's kind of hard to be successful when your coach doesn't want you. And as a matter of fact, if it came out 3 days before the draft that the GM wanted Lance, the owner wanted somebody else, and Kyle Shanahan wanted Mac Jones.
Right.
Thank God he didn't get Mac Jones because, like I said, Mac Jones had that raising floor and lowering ceiling like the walk a hallway his entire career.
Yeah, but neither of them have turned out well. So you can't say one was better than the other because so far,
rookie season, Mac Jones had a great one.
Yeah, so far neither of them have done well, but they're still young enough where they can get those things turned around really quickly. But you know what, Robert, I appreciate you bringing that up. Okay, with that said, okay, you said your piece on Aaron Donald. I'll turn it over to Bo.
Yeah, so I mean, on Trey Lance, it like if he couldn't perform with the weapons that he had there, I don't feel real confident that he's going to be great anywhere else. But as far as AD, I mean, 10 years in the league, 10-time Pro Bowler, multiple All-Pros, Rookie of the Year. He won Defensive Player of the Year a couple of times. I mean, there's not a whole lot left for him to do. Wins a ring, still healthy, top of his game. Like, that's a pretty solid time to walk away if you want to. And he was dominant enough that he'll be able to do anything within the league still that he wants to do. If he wants to be in the booth, they will probably give him that shot. Obviously, endorsement deals will still be a thing, so it's not like he needs to play. And having won that ring, I think, really solidified it.
Oh, no question about it. Well, nowadays, you're seeing more and more players retire early. Let's face the physical pounding that you take when you play this game. You're not taking the physical pounding just in the NFL, folks. You're taking it in college. You're taking it in high school, and it's the accumulation of the hits over a sustained period of time beyond the pros. I mean, think about it. This weekend, we're going to have a new league start, the United Football League, and these guys here are looking for jobs to get to the NFL. Now, we'll talk about that next week a little bit. I'll be curious to see what the attendances are like. I want to focus on the task at hand. But when you suffer an accumulation of hits from high school all the way to college to the pros, and that doesn't count Pee Wee and all these other leagues before, now what do you expect to begin with? So, yeah, I think there's no question that Donald's leaving at the right time. Barry Sanders left when his senses were intact. Then again, he didn't win a lot, so that probably helped him out a little bit. But with that said, all right, Bo and Jeremy, we'll turn it over to Travis, and then Mel's going to wrap up the topic, and we're going to wrap up the show shortly.
I mean, like you said, there's been a recent, trend of players retiring early, and that seems just to be, hey, these guys are realizing, hey, this money is huge these days. This is generational money. I'm good. I don't have to do this, because we as fans often forget that this is just a job. For some guys, they are really fans and they're going to do this because they just love it. And for other guys, hey man, this is clocking in and clocking out. And I'm done. I've collected enough that I can do whatever I actually want to do, what my passion truly is. whether that's something in the media, something in football, something that has nothing to do with this. I just want to run my company and just be relaxed and be content with my family and be a dad or an uncle or whatever it may be, and that's dope. But now Aaron Donald joins that long list of a lot of famous, likely Hall of Fame guys: Earl Campbell, Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson, and a lot of the Terrell Davis, a lot of those guys who just retired early, and it wasn't because of injury. They just knew it was time to enjoy that money that you've worked so hard for all this time. So, hey, man, congratulations. He will be in the Hall of Fame. Start that clock already. Give it 5 years. Let's go.
Yeah, he's first ballot all the way.
Yeah, him and Kelsey will get first ballot, both of them.
Yep.
Those are going to be some of the easiest selections.
Hi, George Eichhorn. Glad you're nice to hear from you. All right, Mel, go ahead. Wrap it up with this topic.
I think that you gotta understand football is a tough game, and it's not just the games. It's not just the practice. It's what goes into being able to prepare yourself for a long season. When I played, way back yonder, I remember you went to camp and got in shape pretty much. Now you have all season programs where you're pretty much you're ready to go full tilt when camp starts. So you're preparing long before camp even starts. I mean, you got a 2 or 3 month program, weightlifting programs, then you have OTAs and different things that you have to go to. It's just a lot. And he's one of those guys that committed, he's committed. And I think Tom Brady was another guy. I think I was watching the Dynasty and just how I think it was him or he, how he went about approaching playing football. That was everything to him. He gave it all that he had. I mean, that's all he thought about. Kobe Bryant, when he was playing basketball, he didn't go hang out, do certain things. Allen Iverson would come out to LA. Hey, Kobe, man, what are you doing here, man? You know what I'm doing? I'm going to the gym. He's like, man, I'm going out to the club. I'm doing that. I mean, he was committed. And Aaron Donald's one of those guys that's committed. Look at his body. I mean, he's undersized to play the position that he plays. He's only like 6 foot, 285 pounds or whatever, 80 pounds, whatever it is. But he's undersized. But the guy has a tremendous amount of will, a tremendous motor, tremendous work ethic. If you looked at some of the pieces that they did on him going into the Super Bowl, the things that he did in his basement with his dad. He'd get up at 5 a.m. or 4:30 in the morning and get up and lift weights before he went to school, come back home and get back in there and push that iron. I mean, it takes a lot out of you. He's played 10 years and he's, his 10 years might be like another person's 15 or 16 years because of the way that he had approached it and the way that he attacked it. Yeah, for a football fan, yeah. I mean, it's tough to see a guy leave at the top of his game, but I understand it. I mean, Jim Brown left, when in his prime. Barry Sanders, he played 10 years. We thought he still had plenty in the tank. Heck, he was right there getting ready to break Walter Payton's record. That wasn't important to him. He decided to hang up his cleats. Everybody kind of thought it was a joke, thought he'd be back. Barry's never looked back. He probably could have rushed for 20,000 yards. He probably could have put the record so far out there that it would have been impossible to reach, even though Emmett's, record will probably never be, nobody will ever break his record. But I get it. I understand how difficult it is to play that game week in and week out. It's a tough sport. It's a tough way to make a living.
Let's go back to the chat room. Blake Losinski, I see a big future for Jeremy in the broadcasting industry. Oh, great minds think alike there, right, Jeremy? Okay,
Wow.
Good stuff. Blake Losinski, good show tonight. Well, glad you feel that way. Jeremy's the next new Craig Minervini. Well, Craig's a good friend of mine, Jeremy, just so you know, one of the classiest people on the planet there. For sure. Okay, I think Scott needs to introduce Jeremy to Craig. Well, all Jeremy has to do is come to South Florida. We'll take him to a Marlins game. We'll meet him there. So with that said, it has been a fun show tonight. I know we've covered a fair amount of topics. Candy, why don't you go ahead and come on in here and give us another station break, turn it over to these guys so they can wrap things up as well.
Okay, well, you are listening to Inside the Pigskin, which is on Tuesday nights. If you missed it, last night was 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Tomorrow night is Sports Exchange. Sports Exchange talks about all kinds of different sports, from cornhole to football to basketball, March Madness, you name it. You never know what might be on. But if you want to subscribe, hit that red subscribe button, share it, like us, share others, go to all of our panelists that most of them have YouTube channels, support them. If you want to see topic ideas and you have ideas, send it to us, SouthFloridaTribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call Scott 954-304-4941. And if you like to listen to podcasts, go out and find South Florida Tribune. We are all over any of those podcast areas. But there is a book out there, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott Morganroth, who has been in the media for over 40 years. It talks about some of his biggest interviews. It has a picture of him with Muhammad Ali. It has lots of information. Go out and get it. It's a very interesting book. It is available on Amazon, Kindle, or Barnes & Noble. Okay, back to you, Scott.
All right, well, that does conclude this edition of Inside the Picks. And before we go away, though, Jeremy, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Well, as always, you can find me right here on the South Florida Tribune channel. You can also find me on the southfloridatribune.com, where I write for the Motor City Tribune heading. Right underneath George Eichhorn, you'll find me there. You can also find me on my channel, which is Kneecap Fighting with the Motor City Lions. I'm live 8 times a week, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m., and then Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 p.m. You can also find me here on this show, Inside the Pigskin on Tuesdays, Fire Up on Thursdays, and whatever else Scott wants to throw me into, because if I got the time to do it, I do it.
Sure do. And of course, Jeremy and I will be doing another edition of Professor and the Pupil at a later date. We'll give you more specifics when we get closer to that date. All right. With that said, Travis, go ahead.
You can find me on all the socials. Hey, as it says right here, Travis D. Holmes, Twitter, Threads, etc. You can find my writings covering the Jacksonville Jaguars at bigcatcountry.com, and you can find me here wherever you find your podcast. Also on the Sports Exchange, Inside the Pigskin on Tuesdays, Sports Exchange on Wednesdays, and our podcast covering the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Duval Diver Jaguars podcast on Fridays at 11:30 a.m. Again, wherever you find your podcast. Great show, gentlemen. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. By the way, Joshua, I am the professor and Jeremy is the pupil, but yeah, but I will say this, folks, Jeremy's a big fan of the professor and the pupil as well as everybody else. All right. With that said, we'll turn it over to Bo.
Yeah, so you can find me here every Tuesday night, of course, on my channel at Football-Talk. All the socials at Football Talk with Bo, and of course, Roku TV 5 days a week.
Very good. And last but not least, Mel Farr. Go ahead. Of course, if you
find me on all the social media at Mel Farr Jr. That's Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. And again, like I said, I will be in Detroit on April 24th. Love to see you all there at One Mic Stand at 7 p.m. To support our foundation and to support the youth in Detroit and also here in Atlanta. If you guys need information regarding tickets, please feel free to hit me up on either, at either one, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn, and I'll get you that information.
Okay, very good. All right, I want to thank everybody in the chat room, led by Joshua Bernstein and obviously Blake Lozinski. We'll point them all out to you really quickly. Those are the two that did talk, that were very active. George Eichhorn got in there. Robert Wardell. Let's see who else we have in there. All right, well, they know who they are. I want to thank you very much for your participation. It was very much appreciated, Ken Ballrick. But meanwhile, so on behalf of Jeremy Ballrick, Travis Holmes, Bo, and Mel, my name is Scott Morganroth, Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Inside the Picks. We look forward to a new episode next Tuesday night. Anything else you want to add, Candy? Anything you want to add, Candy?
I said nope. Just go out there and share, like our broadcast if you enjoyed it, and go out and support all of our contributors too, their podcasts too. So, and let's all support Mel and that fine event that he's got up in Detroit for the draft, before the draft.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll catch you next Tuesday night. Have a great week, everyone. Bye now.